All right, we're going to be taking a look at 3.1. Unit 3, we're solving using elimination. So there are three different ways of solving systems of equations. And the first way was Unit 1, which was graphing. And we like to do graphing when we have two equations that are in slope-intercept form. For example, these two equations. They're both in slope-intercept form. Y is solved for. You could plug them onto a graph very easily and then find where your points cross, and that's your solution. The second way that we learned, which was Unit 2, was using substitution. We use substitution when we have one value that's solved for, like y equals 2x plus 3. We could graph that just like we could in the other one. But when our second equation is in like standard form, so like 2x plus 4y equals, 6. When we have a second equation in standard form, instead of solving to get y by itself so that we can graph it, what we like to do is we like to take the value that we have for y and plug it in using substitution and then solve algebraically. So we have both equations in slope-intercept form, you graph. One equation in slope-intercept and one equation in standard, we substitute. And now in Unit 3, we're going to be working with both equations in standard form. So like 2x plus 4y equals 8 and negative 2x plus 6y equals 14. When we have something like that, then we want to use what's called elimination. And sometimes things will eliminate. So like if we were to put both of these equations together, 2x and negative 2x would cancel each other out. And then we would get 10y and we would get 22. So 10y equals 22, and then we could solve for y. With elimination, sometimes, or the most important part to elimination is to having two values that are going to cancel each other out. What we will be doing through this unit is learning how to manipulate the values so that they cancel out. So here's just one more kind of little note here before we take a look. So if we add two equations together, so I'm just going to give us an example here. 2x plus 4y equals 10. And let's say negative 2x plus 6y equals 20. Okay, and then I'm going to copy this. I'm going to give you two different examples, and I'm going to paste that down below. Okay, so for example 1, we could what's called just add both of these equations together. So if we add both of these equations together, in purple here, when I combine these, they make 0x. So I'm adding both equations together. It means I'm just putting them together how they are. When I combine these, I get 10y. And when I add these, I get 30. Now I just really have 10y equals 30. And then I can divide 10 to both sides, and y equals 3. So I can find what my y value is. That's if I'm just adding these up because I don't need to change signs. In my second example, let's say I had, all negatives. I'm sorry, except for the first one. So for this one, in order to get my 2's to cancel out, if I were to just add this all up, I would get 4x minus 2y equals negative 10 if I just add these up like this. and nothing eliminated, which doesn't do us any good. So in order to get this second set to eliminate, I need to have, yes, I need to have the same value, so like 2 and 2, so my x's would eliminate, but I need to change my sign, which means I need to actually subtract one equation from the other. Because if I were to subtract this, then I would distribute my negative in, and it would change all of my signs, and then these would eliminate. So up here I could just add both equations and it would eliminate. But down here, I would need to actually subtract my bottom equation so that it would eliminate. So that's what we're going to be identifying up here. So for 3.1, we're doing two things. We are going to identify if we need to add or subtract. So if so here our x's are going to cancel out, but they have the same sign. So in order for them to cancel out, we would need to subtract. Right? We would need to subtract our bottom equation from our top equation to eliminate x, because that's what would go away. So that's all we're identifying today. That's all we're doing in 3.1. For this one, our x's would cancel out, and we just add equations together. So we would add to eliminate x. I'm just going to do these pretty quickly. So I'm looking at which ones have the same number. There we go. So for these ones, I don't need to change the sign. So we would just add our two equations together to eliminate x. Here, we have the same sign, so we would need to subtract our bottom equation. So we would subtract to eliminate y. In this one, our y's would go away, but we would have to subtract because that would change the sign so they cancel. So again, here's my same numbers. I have the same sign, so it's going to need to subtract to eliminate y. Number 6, I have common x's. They have the same sign, so I would need to subtract because subtraction would change my sign to make it the opposite. So subtract to eliminate, and that would get rid of our x's. For this one, it looks like we have the same number here, and I'm looking at my sign. I don't need to change anything, so I can just add these two equations together, and that would eliminate x. Okay? For this one, I could just combine these how they are, so I'm going to add to eliminate x. See how quickly we can identify these? So I'm looking at which ones have the same value, so the y's have the same value. And then I'm looking at, well, do they have the same sign or different signs? If they have different signs, then we can just add both equations together. And then we're saying, what will that eliminate? Oh, and I didn't even spell that close to right. Eliminate. Add to eliminate the y's. Those are the ones that would go away. So for 10, add to eliminate y. Okay, so in this one, we would need to subtract, right? Because these are the same. So when they're the same signs, we need to subtract one from the other to eliminate y. Our y's would go away. Again, same signs mean we need to subtract to eliminate our x values. Okay? So for 13, do we need to add or subtract? So answer that now. Add or subtract. To eliminate, is that going to eliminate x or y? So for this one, you should have said add to eliminate x. Add to eliminate x. Okay, for this one, would we need to add or subtract? You should have answered subtract to eliminate x or y. Go ahead and answer that. You should have answered y.